Hey, what's up guys? I'm back with another video. Today we got a March Madness prediction video because March Madness starts in a few days. And just forewarning before we start this video, my bracket most likely won't be perfect, but this is just for fun, and I hope you get a little bit of advice from this video to help you out with your brackets. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and let's get into the video. Alright, to start off the video, we're going to go all one seeds first because even though it happened last year and again with Virginia and UMBC, it's so unlikely for it to happen again. So we're going one seeds all the way. Okay, so the first one that we're going to start off with is FAU versus Northwestern. FAU is returning a lot of talent from that Final Four team. Even though they were disappointing this year, I'm going to go FAU in this one. The next one, same with FAU, San Diego State returning a lot of talent from that team from last year that went very far. And I'm going to go San Diego State. Even though UAB has been on a bit of a hot streak, winning their conference and stealing a bid, I'm going to go San Diego State. The next one we got is Auburn versus Yale. I'm going Auburn. And this isn't the bias in me, but Auburn is a very good team. Top 10 in the KenPom in offense and defense. And they won the SEC tournament. So I am going to go Auburn in this one. The next one we got, I'm going BYU. BYU is a great team, even though the record isn't quite showing that they're in the Big 12, first year in the Big 12. I think BYU is a great team. Next one we have Illinois versus Morehead State. I'm going Illinois. Just won the Big 10 tournament. I don't see them getting upset in this one. Next one we got is very tough. Washington State versus Drake. Washington State is a very good team. I think they went 13-3 in their last 16 games. But I like Drake. I like that father-son duo that they got. I think it's just a great story, and I think it's a story that is a March Madness story and that they'll end up winning this game. Next up, we got Iowa State versus South Dakota State. Sorry, I've got Iowa State advancing in that one. All right. Now we're gonna go Mississippi State versus Michigan State. This one's a tough one because Michigan State has Tom Izzo, obviously. I think Mississippi State is the better team, and I think Michigan State's been very disappointing this year, so I'm going to go Mississippi State in this one. Now this one, St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. A lot of people have chosen Grand Canyon over St. Mary's, and I see that Grand Canyon is a great team, but I'm going to go St. Mary's in this one. I think their height and their size is going to help them in this one, and they're going to slow the pace down and end up winning this game. Next up, we got Alabama versus Charleston. Two kind of similar teams, but Alabama's obviously has more talent being an SEC team. So I'm going to go Alabama, and their fast-paced offense is going to help them a lot in this one. This one's also a tough one. You got Clemson versus New Mexico. I think Clemson's seed is way too high here. I think New Mexico's on a run, on a tear right now. So I'm going to go New Mexico. Next one's Baylor versus Colgate. I'm not super high on Baylor, even though I'm not going to choose them to get upset in this round. I'm choosing Baylor. Dayton, Nevada, another tough one. This bracket's full of very tough matchups, and Dayton's a very good team from the Atlantic 10 Conference, but I'm going to go Nevada here. They're a very hot team, maybe one of the hottest teams in the NCAA right now, so I'm going to go Nevada. And then I'm going to go Arizona over Long Beach State, even though Long Beach State has a very good story with their coach being fired before the tournament and them winning their tournament, this being their first time in a while making the NCAA tournament. Next matchup we got is Nebraska versus A&M, and I go to A&M, so this is a tough one to choose. And with my bias aside, I do think A&M's going to win. They have the experience and they have the talent over Nebraska, and they've been here before, so I'm going to go A&M. Next one's Wisconsin, James Madison. Now this one's another very popular upset pick, and I'm going to go James Madison in this one. Wisconsin has went 3-8 in their last 11 regular season games, even though they did make it to the championship of their tournament. I do think James Madison's going to pull this one out. Next up, we got Duke versus Vermont. I've got Duke in this one. Even though they've kind of struggled down the road lately, I've got Duke winning this one. Next up, we got Texas Tech versus NC State. NC State did win the ACC tournament, and I think they've got a bad pull there because they're playing on Thursday, and they just won their tournament, and they played 4 games. So I'm going to go Texas Tech in this one. I think NC State's going to have weary legs, and I got Texas Tech winning. We got Kentucky, Oakland next. We're going to go Kentucky, even though they can have some games where they're very inconsistent. I'm going Kentucky in this one. I don't think they lose to Oakland. And so Florida versus Boise State or Colorado. I think Colorado will win between Boise State and Colorado. And I think Colorado beats Florida. One of Florida's big men got injured against Auburn, and I think Colorado's going to beat them in that one. This is an interesting one. Marquette versus Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky is one of the highest paced teams in the NCAA, but I think Marquette wins, even though Tyler Kolek, his injury is still up in the air. I think Tyler Kolek and Marquette wins this game. All right, now on the other side of the bracket, we have Utah State versus TCU. This one's another tough one. Utah State is very lowly seeded in this one. They should be probably a 6 seed, but they got dropped to an 8 seed in this poll. So I'm gonna go Utah State because I feel like they are underseeded, even though TCU is a very good team. This is another popular upset pick: Gonzaga versus McNeese State, with McNeese State having Will Wade. But I think Gonzaga still pulls this one out. I think it will be a very close game, but I don't think McNeese has the size to compete with Gonzaga. Next up, we got Kansas versus Samford. This is another interesting one. Hunter Dickinson is out for Kansas, and Samford is a very efficient team and very hungry team, so I'm going to go Samford in this one. Next up, we got South Carolina versus Oregon. This one's tough because I feel like I have a lot of SEC bias, but I think Oregon's on a run right now, and I think they're going to be hard to beat. It's just, if they can keep their offense going, I don't think a lot of teams will be able to beat them in the NCAA. Next up, we got Creighton versus Akron. I've got Creighton. I'm very high on Creighton this year. Now we got Texas versus either Virginia or Colorado State University. I got Texas. They have 2 guards that have been there, done that in the NCAA tournament, so I'm going to go Texas. And last but not least, I got Tennessee in the first round. All right. Now we're on to the round of 32. We're going to start at the top. We got UConn versus FAU. I'm going UConn. They're just a juggernaut. I don't think they're going to lose to FAU in the second round. You got San Diego State versus Auburn. Even though San Diego State made it last year, I've got Auburn beating them this year. Next up, we got BYU and Illinois. This one's a very tough one. BYU is a great team. Illinois is a great team. Just won the Big Ten tournament. Illinois did. And I'm going to go Illinois to win this one. And then we got Drake, Iowa State. I think this has upset potential. I'm not going to predict it, but I think it very well could be Drake beating Iowa State. But I'm going to go Iowa State in this one. Now we're going to go on to the other side of the bracket. We have North Carolina versus Mississippi State. Now this one's tough. I think Mississippi State could very well beat North Carolina and very well could take down this 1 seed, but I'm going to have North Carolina going. They have a lot of experience, and I think they'll win that one. Now we got St. Mary's versus Alabama. This one's all about who can force the other team to play their pace and play their style of basketball. I think St. Mary's ends up winning this one. They have the size and the height to beat Alabama, and they can slow down Alabama's offense. Next up, we got New Mexico versus Baylor. Like I said, I'm not super high on Baylor this year, and I've got New Mexico beating them. New Mexico is one of the hottest teams in the nation, and I think they end up beating the Baylor Bears. Now we have Nevada versus Arizona. I think Arizona wins that one. Even though, like I said, Nevada is a very hot team, I think Arizona ends up winning that game. Let's go back to the top. We have Houston versus A&M. And a lot of my friends have said, I think A&M beats Houston, but I'm going Houston over A&M. Houston is just one of the best defenses in the nation, not even this year, but just historically. So I'm going to go Houston in that one. Next up, we got Duke versus James Madison. I'm going Duke. I think James Madison's story beating Wisconsin ends right there. And then now we have Tech versus Kentucky. This one's a tough one. And I think Tech could end up being Kentucky on, like, if Kentucky has a slow day. And I think Kentucky will have a slow day. And I think Tech beats Kentucky. And then now we have Boise State / Colorado, which I think Colorado wins that one, versus Marquette. And I'm going to go Colorado beating Marquette because I think Tyler Kolek's going to start off slow. And I think Colorado ends up beating Marquette. Now let's go to the last round of 32 on this side. So we got Purdue versus Utah State. I'm going Purdue. Even though Utah State, like I said, was lower seeded, I think Purdue ends up taking them out. Next up, we got Gonzaga versus Samford. I got Gonzaga beating Samford in this one. Even though Samford is efficient, I think Gonzaga ends up getting to the Sweet 16 with their coaching and their experience in the tournament. Now we got Oregon versus Creighton. This is a super tough one. If Oregon's shooting right, I think they could easily beat Creighton, but I think Creighton ends up beating Oregon, just out-talents them. Now we got Texas versus Tennessee. This is a tough one because if Dalton Connect isn't connecting, Texas could easily beat Tennessee, but I don't see that happening. I think Tennessee beats Texas in this one. Now we got UConn versus Auburn. If this game wasn't in Boston, I would probably go Auburn in here, just upsetting UConn. But because it's in Boston, it's a home game for UConn. I'm going to go UConn. And then we got Illinois versus Iowa State. I'm not super high on Iowa State, and I think Illinois is hitting their peak right now, so I'm going to go Illinois in that one. At the other side of the bracket, we got North Carolina versus St. Mary's. I think St. Mary's, like I said, uses their size and their ability to beat North Carolina in this one. And I think they slow down the pace. Even though North Carolina does have that experience, I'm going to go St. Mary's in this one. Now we have New Mexico versus Arizona, and sadly for New Mexico, their Cinderella story stops, and Arizona beats them to set up a St. Mary's Arizona Elite Eight. All right, now we're going back to the top. We have Houston versus Duke, and this is another tough one. I think if Duke heats up, they could easily beat Houston, but I think Houston's defense is too much. I think they beat the Duke Blue Devils in that one. And then now we have Tech versus Colorado. I'm gonna go Tech in this one to set up a Big 12 battle between Houston and Texas Tech. And then on the other side of the bracket, we got Purdue versus Gonzaga. I think Purdue's a juggernaut this year. I think they beat Gonzaga. And then we have Creighton versus Tennessee. I think Dalton Connect and Tennessee in their run here, and I think Creighton beats them. All right, now we have UConn versus Illinois. And this is a tough one again. That side of the bracket's just really good. You have Auburn, probably the best 4 seed, best 3 seed in Illinois, maybe the best 2 seed in Iowa State, and then you have obviously the number 1 overall seed in UConn. But I'm gonna go UConn in that one for them to advance to the Final Four. And then we have St. Mary's versus Arizona. I'm gonna go Arizona in this one. I think Arizona is able to speed it up against St. Mary's and beat them with having Caleb Love on their team. And we got Houston versus Tech. I'm going to go Houston in this one. I think Houston beats Tech out in the Big 12 battle. And then last but not least on this side, we got Purdue versus Creighton. I think Creighton wins this one. They're kind of similar teams in the fact that they have like 7-footers. They have very good players around them. And I think Creighton's going to heat up because they have that experience of going deep in tournaments. I'm going to go Creighton in this one. And then our Final Four is UConn versus Arizona and Houston versus Creighton. And this is tough. This is going to be in Glendale, Arizona. And I'm going to go Arizona in this one, beating out UConn. And then I'm going to have Houston beating out Creighton, ending Creighton's run. And then you got Houston versus Arizona, who can play their style of play and who can play their own brand of basketball. It's going to be in Glendale, Arizona, which is a home game for Arizona. And I'm going to go Arizona as my national champion. Now that's it for the video. Let me know your predictions in the comments down below. Who's your March Madness champion? But that's it for the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.